Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is sending a strong message to Iran. She says the U.S. will maintain a military interest in Iraq after their troops return home. So Iran shouldn't try and take advantage of the pullout. Nevertheless, Republicans are fighting back against the decision, saying it poses threats to our security. Time to let the Willis watchdogs out. Doug Flynn is a financial advisor for Flynn Zito Capital Management. Al Lewis is a columnist for Dow Jones Newswires, and Judy Miller is a Fox News contributor. Judy, you are the expert in this panel on this topic. What do you say?
Well, I guess she's trying to do the opposite of speaking softly and carrying a big stick. If you don't have the big stick, if you're not going to have the 44,000 troops in Iraq, you might as well try and scare Iran by saying, don't you even think about this. The fact of the matter is this puts terrible pressure on the Maliki government. I mean, not only is it an open invitation to Iran, it is an open invitation to Turkey, which even now, just as we're standing here, has troops fighting in Iraq against a Kurdish rebellious group. So it's crazy. I mean, and for her to say, oh, well, they wouldn't dare. Yes, they would dare. They will dare. They tried to assassinate the Saudi ambassador to the United States.
Anything could happen. What do you say, Al?
Judy's absolutely right. We just spent $3 trillion taking over a country, and we're going to give it to Iran. That's pretty much where we're headed now. Now, I don't like the fact that we're there any more than anyone else, and you know, but I don't know what we do at this point. We just basically walk away and go, here. Oh, don't take this. We're just going to leave this on the board, but don't put your pieces on it.
Well, it's a complicated issue, that's for sure. So we go from that to the Vatican. The Vatican is offering its own advice on how to fix what? The economy. For starters, the Pope, that is, says the economy needs more ethics. He's also suggesting a global political authority to manage the economy. But even religious leaders are crying foul, saying the Vatican view is too close to that of Wall Street protesters. Doug, I want to go to you. What do you say about this? I mean, what is it? Does the Pope know a lot about economics? I don't know.
Well, as a Catholic, I have to be careful because there's an infallibility thing when the Pope says something. But I'm not sure if this is really coming from him or if this is coming from one of the underlings that's trying to decide what to do. And I will tell you what I am not for. I'm not for, on top of all the layers of government we have, a now global additional layer of government on top of that. I don't think that's the answer.
Al?
You know, I'm not a Catholic, so I'm just going to come right out and say this. There was a time when the Catholic Church ran the economy. It was called the Dark Ages.
Judy, what do you say?
Well, you know, we used to ask how many troops does the Vatican have? I'd say how many economists does the Pope have? Because I'm not sure he was very well advised on this one. If you can't even do the euro, you can't even keep that together in the European Commission, how are you going to have a world government or a world
They have a really
bank?
good post office at the Vatican.
Well, there we
I was there
go.
just this summer.
All right, more than half of all Americans say they haven't dined out in over a year. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the extra cash just isn't there anymore, and more people are having to prioritize their spending, which means less nights out on the town. Al, what do you say?
You know what? I find this shocking. You know, when I go to a restaurant, it's still very crowded. I think I must be still eating with all the rich people in America who are still eating at McDonald's.
All right. Doug, what do you say?
Well, you know, I looked into the U.S. Census Bureau report that they came out with, and also, if you look, eating and drinking sales are at a record high. We're also talking about all consumer spending, goods and services combined at all-time highs, inflation-adjusted real-time numbers. So I think this is a case of them trying to sell us more on the fact that the consumer isn't spending, the economy's in the doldrums, and I just don't buy it.
Well, you know, Doug, you get points for reading the report, okay? Judy?
Well, I don't know about that. Maybe the rich people are eating an awful lot out at restaurants, because how does a family that earns $20,000, which is what we've got now in terms of poverty, a family of four, afford to go out even to buy a hot dog at a game? I mean, I think those numbers are probably real, and that the people who have enough to eat are doing pretty well and are eating out a lot.
There's also a problem with this because it doesn't define what the definition of eating out is. So you might not think going to McDonald's is eating out. Someone else might. It's very unclear on what the details are in this.
You know, when you rely on government data, sometimes there are big missing links in what you find out. That's for darn sure.
That's all we got.
That's all we got.
That and the dollar menu.
All right, we have to do this. We have a McDonald's story. How many, it's not a McDonald's story, it's a smoking story, and that's not even close. How many times have we heard smoking kills? Nevertheless, taxpayers are still shelling out thousands of dollars a year to pay for the health department's smoking survey. The state of New York is paying residents $20 a pop to talk about their smoking habits. Al?
You know, I wish they'd pay them $20 a pop to get down on their hands and knees and pick up all the butts on the streets and the sidewalks that they leave just about everywhere. What is this?
Doug, what do you say?
It's just more government waste. I mean, these are things to cut. We don't need another survey to tell us that. It reminds me of that movie Dave, if you've seen it, where they say we need to spend all this money to remind people about the car that they bought a couple of years ago, why they like that car. It's just ridiculous. We don't need to keep doing this.
Judy?
Well, since we're spending $40 million in anti-smoking ads, talk about government money being spent now. If people don't know that cigarette smoking is bad for you by now, you're not alive, or what planet are you living on. But, you know, if they're going to go on spending that kind of money, I'd kind of like to have them target it at strategies that work, something that'll get me not to start smoking again.
Well, you know, I mean, like on the one hand, you tax cigarettes really heavily, and on the other hand, you tell people not to smoke. It's like, what is the government really saying? All right. Doug, Al, Judy, thanks for your help tonight. Great job, and great to have everybody on set. Love it. All right. Still to come, my 2 cents more on Americans underestimating their credit card debt, and what does it take to be a better man? The author of the Book of Man, Bill Bennett, gives us his take after the break.